So I know that today's challenge is all about portfolios, and that's what the agenda says. But I've been doing a lot of thinking, and maybe a better use of our strategy is to talk about the really hard to talk about stuff, like personality traits that may be costing us opportunities. I want us to take some time to really evaluate ourselves. What are our strengths? What personality traits do we bring to the table that make us the best candidate for the job? But also, let's be really honest with ourselves and talk about the hard to talk about things like arrogance and unreliability and dishonesty and all of those traits that may be costing us opportunities. And this is where I want you to take a step back. There's an acronym I used in my book called Be Open, Not Defensive, BOND. I need you to bond with me here. So, hear my heart and understand that my goal is to get you a job, not to hurt your feelings, not to make you go somewhere that you're not ready to go emotionally or mentally, but to really coach you through diving deeper, taking an evaluation of yourself. I don't want you answering 5 million questions. I want you to step back and take an honest reflection of how you may be coming across. So, this is more about perception of your personality than actual personality. So, it's a combination of personality plus communication equals perception. If you are trying to be very helpful, and you communicate it in a wrong way that seems like a challenge, it can come across as arrogance or being kind of a know it all. And so, being able to soften your approach, asking questions to help people discover answers as opposed to always chiming in with the right answer. There are ways that we can soften our approach and maybe paint a little bit better picture about our true personality and what we intend to convey, not just what our words say. In the UK, there's been a lot of studies done on what personality types get hired and don't get hired. And so when we look across the board here in Maximize Your Job Search, we have some very common threads about people who get offers. And so I want to focus on the personality traits that are getting hired. It is those people who are willing to tackle challenges. So they have a can do attitude. They're willing to tackle new technologies. They're willing to dive in. They don't go in with a sense of entitlement, and they don't go in arrogant, like I can do this job in my sleep or this job is beneath me. And so I don't ever think that's our intention, but oftentimes when we downplay that, oh, I can do that, it comes across like we're downplaying the importance of this role. So what we're trying to convey is I'm the right person for the job. I can do this. I've been prepared for this. I've worked my whole career to gain this knowledge and expertise. But what we're saying is it's not that big of a deal. I can do this in my sleep. Okay. So it's painting the wrong picture where we're trying to convey eagerness and aptitude. What's coming across is that we don't take the job seriously. We think it's beneath us and that we may be arrogant. So the other component to that is the opposite end of the spectrum where we don't want to talk about ourselves at all. And we have this humility versus insecurity kind of mindset. Humility is a low view of your importance in the world. So it means that I understand as a human, I'm not more important than the person before me, after me, to my left or to my right. I am on equal playing ground in my importance to the world. Insecurity is a low view of ourself. So it means I'm not as good as, or it's how we compare ourselves to others. We want to come from a place of humility that we understand we're not more important, but that we are confident in our abilities. And it's not in contrast to good moral values to be confident in abilities or proud of accomplishments. You worked hard to accomplish that. You can't allow a mindset of I have to be humble to take away the fact that you accomplished something great and that you can talk about that, because talking about that opens the door for you to be able to go and do other great accomplishments or do other great things for new companies. And so being able to convey your expertise, being able to discuss what you're proud of, really sends a message of I'm the right person for the job. It does not mean that you are arrogant. It doesn't mean that you're prideful. And I really want us to kind of dive through that in our minds and in our hearts to accept that we are worthy of that seat at the table. We are worthy to to express our thoughts and opinions. We are just as qualified as the next person. This is what we have building our career for. And going in with the acknowledgement of this is what I was created to do. And what I often will tell you is it's not enough to know the right people to get the right job. You have to be the right person to go through that door. And so I want you to really dive deep into, am I the right person, or do I have some areas that I need to grow in? This really comes down to the question that we ask in an interview about what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. And here's a tip on that, just a little side note. Any strength, when out of balance, becomes a weakness. So if your strength is attention to detail, when out of balance, becomes perfectionism. If your strength is hard work, your it becomes, when out of balance, being a workaholic. If your strength is being a champion of people, when out of balance, becomes that you're too much of a driver and you can kind of railroad over people. So you have checks and balances in place to make sure that you use your powers for good and not evil, but that you don't get out of balance. Okay. So when we think about that, I want you to think about what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. Take an honest inventory of that and identify areas that you can grow in, and think about how you're coming across to other people. And this can be as simple as in chat forums and comments on posts, especially for your target companies. It can be how you communicate in an interview, how you communicate in writing, and intolerance for people. How you treat people says more about you than it does about them. And so when we treat people, from the security guard who checks us into the property to the person we cut off at the red light before we arrived on scene, that could be the hiring manager, or how do we treat the receptionist? How do we treat people who we think in our mind that can do nothing for us? That's what we have to get down to, the granular part. What is your true integrity when you think it doesn't matter, when you think nobody's looking? What are your core values? And if that comes across, not just in what you believe, but how you communicate it. If that comes across in a negative light, then there may be areas for growth in either your communication strategy, or even key attributes that you may can improve on. For me, I know that I'm a workaholic, and I know I can come across as a know-it-all, and that I have intolerance for people who spread their opinions as facts, and that's really, really hard for me. And so I have to work to not be this kind of know-it-all perfectionist person, and to really help people to gain knowledge without undermining the work that they have or railroading their beliefs. So sometimes I ask questions to get more information. This is where Stephen Covey's principle of seek first to understand and then to be understood comes into play. So I really have studied that a lot to make sure that I don't do that to people, that while I'm confident in the knowledge I've gained because I've done the research, I've seen the data, I've developed the principles that I believe to my very core. So I'm confident in those. I'm confident in the data. But what I am not wanting to do is undermine what other people are studying or what they believe, just to say that my way is the right way or the only way. I want to be very open to other ideas and opinions. And so when I convey messages, I use a questions based approach so that I can understand where someone's coming from and possibly even reflect on an area that I could learn and I could grow and expand, as opposed to it all having to be my way. Okay. So I hope this helps. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's do a challenge today where we take an honest inventory of ourselves, and we're going to post our strength and our weakness. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.